The subcommittee will come to order. I ask unanimous consent that the chair be authorized to declare a recess at any time. Without objection, so ordered. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's hearing. I particularly want to thank all of our esteemed witnesses for accepting our invitation to discuss the plight of our military readiness. I think that we can all agree that the declining readiness trends are unacceptable. These trends have been years in the making and are causing aircraft to be cannibalized and ground vehicles to sit idle, as two examples. While I look forward to our witnesses' thoughts, I would like to offer a few ideas as to what we in Congress need to do to make our military more lethal and effective in the near term. First of all, we need to do the hard work and focus on sustaining the existing fleet. The sad fact is that we have allowed our military readiness to broadly decline because we are more focused on procuring that shiny object rather than holistically managing the day-to-day maintenance necessary to sustain our military. Secondly, the overall top line requested by the administration in the fiscal year 2027 budget request is unprecedented, but absolutely essential to address the plight of our military forces. For too long, our military has relied on legacy force structure that has not been maintained to the readiness levels required. One needs not look further than the Joint Strike Fighter program and the readiness levels provided by this exquisite platform. Cannibalizing our Joint Strike Fighter fleet because we have not provided the basic parts to support this superior platform is not a reasonable long-term solution to maintaining current readiness. This budget request, with the accompanying reconciliation supplement, will break this cannibalization cycle and put the Joint Strike Fighter on a sustainable path. Finally, we need to develop a modernization strategy that provides for our ability to maintain legacy assets through their expected service life. A stark example of this readiness crisis is the state of our amphibious fleet. The Marine Corps has long championed a naval strategy capable of accelerated national security response and has consistently advocated for the restoration of a 3.0 amphibious readiness group worldwide presence, a standard the Navy has to date failed to meet. Years of neglect, misplaced priorities, and open derision from certain Navy pundits have left less than half of our amphibious ships available for tasking. This is not a maintenance problem. It is a leadership problem. This subcommittee will hold the Navy accountable for restoring these ships to their expected service life. The Marine Corps should not have to implore its sister service for the platforms it needs to execute America's crisis response mission. In conclusion, I think any expanded force structure needs to be accompanied with a strategic focus on maintaining the existing forces through their expected service life. This approach is not only cost-effective, but more rapidly expands our readiness in the force posture realm to best meet our ongoing national security challenges. I thank our witnesses for being here today. I look forward to your testimony and to working together with my colleagues and all of you to address these challenges. And with that, I turn it over to my friend and the ranking member, Mr. Garamendi of California.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Indeed, your opening statement covers the critical issues that are before us. But before I get into this and talking to our witnesses, I do want to acknowledge the men and women that have lost their life in epic Fury's war. I also want to acknowledge the extraordinary stress that is placed on the men and women of our military and in other areas as they deal with this war in Iran and the families that have to carry the burden. It's difficult for all of them, and we acknowledge their service. This is one of the most consequential hearings we have each year, and this year the stakes are especially high. We're convening today with service members that are actively engaged in the Middle East, with CENTCOM executing a maritime blockade of the Iranian ports. And I think we're into the sixth week of that war. Our forces have been stretched all across this globe, from SOUTHCOM to CENTCOM and to EURCOM, even as we prepare for the possibilities of a near-peer conflict in the Indo-Pacific region. Regardless of where any of us stand on the strategic decisions that brought us here today, we share the fundamental obligation of ensuring that our service members have the equipment, the training, and the infrastructure they need to succeed in their mission. Let me start with Epic Fury and our tanker force. We lost 6 airmen in the KC-135 crash that occurred over Iraq on March the 12th, and we mourn their loss, of course, and look to where we go from here. The fleet further sustained damages at Prince Sultan Air Base and in Israel, sustaining a fleet that is already under pressure. I have previously raised concerns about the air refueling capacity, especially given the ongoing delays with the KC-46 program. Earlier last month, one of our witnesses, the Vice Chief of Staff of the Air Force, stated that the Air Force would not contract any new KC-46s until the existing technical deficiencies are resolved. I'm encouraged to see that the Air Force has prioritized the resolution of the capability gaps over speed of acquisition. And I view this pause as an important opportunity to ensure that investments are made to date that translate into mission-ready, sustainable assets. I look forward to working with the Air Force on the deficiencies and make sure that they are addressed. Now, I also want to shift over to the Navy, some of which you covered, Mr. Chairman, in your opening remarks. Typically, for the last 6 months, while extensions have occurred during the time of crisis, the USS Ford is likely to enter the 11th month of deployment, a record-breaking commitment. The carrier, which was first deployed to EURCOM and then to SOUTHCOM and now back to CENTCOM, has dealt with mechanical issues, including sewage problems, toilets don't work, and then there was the fire in the laundry, all of which have caused extraordinary stress to the sailors and to the ongoing commitment that the Navy makes to, in this case, CENTCOM. I understand there's an ongoing investigation of the fire, and I'd like to make sure that we are kept abreast of the results of that.